Today we're gonna find out if I can beat a Pokemon Omega Ruby Hardcore Nuzlocke using only Psychic types. The rules are simple. Any fainted Pokemon must be permanently boxed, and we can only catch the first Psychic type encounter in any area. As for the hardcore rules, battle mode must be played on set, no items can be used in battle except for held items, and you can't overlevel the next gym leader's highest level Pokemon until you enter the battle. We're also gonna make the level cap of the Elite Four extra spicy by making it 52, which is Sydney's highest level Pokemon. Yeah, Steven's gonna be tough. Anyway, here are the Psychic type encounters we have available to us, except we're not going to be able to get Lunatone since we're playing Omega Ruby, and we're also unfortunately not going to be able to get Metagross since it's only available in the post-game. You also may notice that we have access to a couple Megas in this run, which I'm only going to allow in fights where the opponent has Mega Evolution or against the Elite Four. So I start my journey the way I always do, by naming myself Axel, and it's now time for us to pick our very first Pokemon. Now, none of the starters in Hoenn turn into Psychic types, so it doesn't really matter who we pick, so I end up just picking Torchic because I think Swampert is probably going to be the most difficult to face in the end. So I give Torchic a very inspired nickname, and it turns out it has a jolly nature. Like, why can't I be this lucky with natures with real encounters? Speaking of real encounters, the first Pokemon we can catch is Ralts on Route 102. I capture it and name it Gemini, and wait, hold on, it's actually a timid nature? My prayers have been answered! We then go visit our dad, who tells us we need to help Wally catch a Pokemon. Which Pokemon do you want to catch? Well, oh, come on, really inspired choice, bro. We then run into our first roadblock, which is the fact that we have to face a Magma Grunt that has a Poochyena, so I make sure to level up to level 11 so we get Disarming Voice. This fortunately makes very short work of Poochyena, but our troubles have only just begun. See, we now have to face the first gym leader, Roxanne, and in case you didn't know, Ralts has a base defense of 25, so we pretty much can't get hit by anything. So we're gonna have to bank on luck and a lot of cheese. And the first few turns of Double Team go swimmingly, but then I get hit by a crit Rock Tomb, which leaves me at 10 HP, and I eat my Oran Berry to get back some health. Fortunately for me though, Rock Tomb has really bad accuracy, so I managed to set up all the way to +6 before I can start using Confusions. After getting a crit of my own, Roxanne uses a potion, but I end up taking out Geodude with another couple of Confusions. Roxanne's next Pokemon is her ace, Nosepass, which is a really beefy 90 special defense for this part of the game. And my strategy here is pretty much to just dodge attacks and use Growl to lower Nosepass's attack so that it doesn't do that much damage, kind of like the tackle she actually manages to land. So at this point, we're pretty much just hoping and praying that she doesn't hit us with a crit, which we don't have any control over whatsoever, and try to take her down with like 4 Confusions. So eventually we do collect the first gym badge, but as much as I hate facing evasion strats, I hate relying on it even more. Anyway, after our epic victory royale at the gym, we have to help this guy take out Poochyena in one hit again, and he takes me to see Mr. Stone. And by Lord Helix is this a man of culture. And since we helped out Pico, Mr. Briny takes us on his boat to Dewford Town, and I love boats, this time brought to you in 3D. Once we get access to Granite Cave, we can go and try and find an Abra, but it's kind of tricky since we only get one shot at capturing this thing, but luckily we catch it in our only Great Ball. I name Abra Aries and move on to the second gym where we meet Brawly, and hold on bro, what are you doing? You look like you're practicing taking your pants off as fast as possible. It turns out that that statement offends Brawly's very clothed sensibilities, so we have to fight him, and we end up just taking out his matchup with a single crit Confusion. I mean, I don't really think anybody expected this gym to be really hard. I do make one oopsie where I forget that Makuhita has knockoff, so it knocks off my Oran Berry, but I end up taking it out with a few Confusions anyway. So I beat Brawly without any difficulty, and honestly, it would have been less humiliating for him to just pants himself. After sharing my love for boats with Captain Stern, Team Magma leaves us at 4 HP with a crit, and we then have to meet Maxie, who sports the brand new Mega Google Glass. We also managed to get Aries up to level 16, so it actually evolves into a usable Pokemon. And with that addition to the team, it's now finally time to take on the infamous Route 110 May fight. She starts out with Troomish, and we're only at level 17 with Ralts since we don't want to get too close to the level cap, and my strategy here is to try and use Double Team as she goes for Stun Spore, but unfortunately she hits, and we can heal it off with a Cherry Berry and Synchronize. And the plan is to try to not get hit by Leech Seed. It's not quite as bad if we get hit by Stun Spore, but if we can avoid it, that would be great, but unfortunately, of course, we get paralyzed, but we can take out Troomish in the end without having to get Leech Seeded. I mean, yeah, granted it takes me about 1,000,000 Confusions, but then we have to face Slugma, which really doesn't have any good damaging moves. I suppose the worst it could do is hit us with a Rock Throw, but it's unstab and Slugma's attack stat isn't exactly awesome, so we end up taking it out in the end. But what I'm really afraid of is actually May's Marshtomp, because our double teams aren't even going to help us here. See, your Marshtomp has Foresight, which aside from letting you hit ghosts with normal and fighting type moves, totally ignores any alterations to your accuracy. So it all comes down to if we get paralyzed the last turn, and luckily we managed to hit the Magical Leaf. If we would have been leech seeded by Shroomish or just paralyzed against Marshtomp, that could have gone way worse. Oh yeah, Mauville City's been totally revamped and we can get our hands on the Charge Beam TM before we show Wally how we treat posers. And then while I do some training for the level cap, Gemini ends up evolving into a Curlia. But this doesn't quell my worries about Watson whatsoever because he has both Magnemite and Magneton, and Magneton has Mirror Shot, which never misses. So we're gonna have to bring out Aries for this one, and I can only really think of one strategy, which is gonna involve a lot of luck, and you guys know how much I enjoy those strategies. Basically, we're trying to collect boosts from Charge Beams, and first turn I get hit by a Thunder Wave, which I heal off with a Cherry Berry. I then go for Disable on Magnemite so that it can't hit us with Thunder Wave again. This way we're not gonna be slow, and we can start using more Charge Beams to try and fish for boosts. Not being able to get Thunder Wave, this means that I am gonna have to eat a few stab Volt switches from Magnemite and Voltorb, but it's all gonna be worth it if I get enough boosts. Fortunately for me, getting a crit on the first Charge Beam of the battle means that Magnemite is at such low health that Watson uses a Super Potion, so I can take it out with another couple of Charge Beams, getting me more special attack boosts. Watson then sends in Voltorb, but at this point we're at really high special attacks, so we can take it out with one Charge Beam, which unfortunately doesn't get a boost. Next up is Magneton, and this is what I've really been afraid of the whole time, and I have the choice of going for Psybeam or Charge Beam. I end up going for Psybeam even though it's the slightly weaker choice after both Stab and Resistance, but we do take it out and we manage to get the third gym badge. Whew. After our surging victory against Watson, I run into these two exposition dump magma grunts, and honestly, I wish I had some snacks too, my man. I also run into this businessman who says, I used to ditch class to come here when I was a student, but I can't get away with that now that I'm a working man. Way too real, bro.
Okay, hand please.
Dude, what are you? Okay, I guess I'll take a nugget.
A mighty fine nugget, all yours now. Hope it pans out for you. There's nothing funny about nuggets.
Excuse me, what? How come Mauville City's just full of the weirdest people in the Pokemon world? Anyway, after a bit more adventuring, we can finally get to Meteor Falls, where we can get our third encounter, Solrock, which I name Leo. We then have to save Professor Cosmo from Team Magma, and who should show up except the least talented comedian in the world? Yep, it's Archie. We then run into Maxie at the top of Mount Chimney, the man sworn to ending comedy across the globe. Defeating him is pretty funny though, I gotta say. Then on our way to Lava Ridge Town, we can find our next few encounters. First off, I catch a Spoink that I name Libra, and then we get an egg from the old lady in Lava Ridge. And after taking about 400 million steps, the egg finally hatches into a Whynot. I obviously name it Cancer. Then after a bit of grinding towards the level cap, Cancer actually evolves into Wobbuffet, and oh my goodness, please get that off the screen. Anyway, it's now finally time to face off against the fiery hot gym leader Flannery. At long last, we get to fight a gym battle where we actually have more than 2 Pokemon on our team, and so I lead off with Solrock as she sends in Slugma. The first turn I go for a Cosmic Power, which increases my defense and special defense as she sets up Light Screen. I then start using Cosmic Powers to set myself up for +6 defense and +6 special defense so that I won't take too much damage from anybody else, and all we have to fear is really a crit. So as soon as I'm adequately set up, I go for a Rock Slide, which takes out the Slugma. He then sends in Numel, so I go for a Bulldoze, but it doesn't quite get the knockout, so of course she starts using Super Potions. This goes on for a few turns, but eventually I get the double Bulldoze to take out Numel, and now all we have to do is face off against Torkoal. Now Torkoal's about as fast as a frozen slug, so I go for a Rock Slide, and I actually end up getting the flinch. I go for a second one, and what do you know? So I actually end up not having to even take a hit from Torkoal whatsoever, and we can take it out with a third Rock Slide. I guess that's kind of an anticlimactic battle against Flannery. Moving on though, we can finally get to the desert now where we can get our next encounter, a Baltoy, which I name Virgo. We've got the fight against Norman coming up, so I get to level 30, which means that Curlia evolves into Gardevoir. It's then time for us to do some exposure therapy and confront our father about our issues. Now Norman can actually be a really scary fight in this game. He has 2 Slakings. So I decide to start with Solrock and set up some Cosmic Powers as he hits me with a Yawn. This of course puts me to sleep, and I try to keep going for Cosmic Power, and he Encores me, which doesn't make that much of a difference, but the sleep is definitely drawing this process out way more than it has to. Once I've set up adequately, I feel like it's time to start attacking, but I pretty much do minuscule damage, and he puts me to sleep again. I'm very fortunate that he can only do damage every other turn, but I'm still starting to take a lot of damage on Solrock. Eventually I take so much damage that I almost have to switch out, but I end up getting a crit on the last Rock Slide, which definitely mattered. Next up is Vigoroth, and it doesn't have nearly as high damage potential as Slaking, so I decide to stay in even though I'm asleep, and eventually I can fire off a Rock Slide. It does over half of Vigoroth's health, so another one takes it out, and now we have the final Slaking to contend with. Its first Feint Attack takes me down to just 8 HP, so I would have been dead to crit there, so I obviously have to switch out. I use a few charms with Wobbuffet, which is pretty dumb since I'm trying to go for counter strats, but eventually hits me with a Feint Attack, and I go down to just 1 HP when I hit myself in confusion. So So obviously we gotta switch out Wobbuffet, and I'm pretty desperate at this point, so I go into Gardevoir, who can at least resist Feint Attack, and I get swaggered. But fortunately, I break out of confusion after a while, and I can hit a couple Psychics to take out the Slaking so we can claim our 5th gym badge. Phew! After the gym, Steven takes us on a magical adventure on Latios where we could get Latios, but legendaries aren't allowed in Hardcore Nuzlocke, so sorry Latios. We do, however, receive the Mega Bracelet, which is super masculine. On our way to Fortree, Libra gets to level 30, which means it evolves into Grumpig. And as soon as we actually get to Fortree City, Steven wants to show us his brand new VR headset, which really offends this Kecleon for some reason. So after yet another adventure with Steven, it's time to face Winona and her flying types. Now this is a fight that I'm actually not that scared of because I have pretty fast Pokemon as it is, so I start off with Gardevoir and use a Charge Beam to try to set up my special attack. I then get hit by Aerial Ace and miss my next Charge Beam, so I decided just go for a Calm Mind to set up my special attack manually. After the double team, I obviously fear missing, but I end up hitting a Charge Beam and getting the Spatak boost. And I actually expected this Skarmory to have Sturdy, but it doesn't, so it just goes down in one hit. Altaria is of course weak to our Fairy type, and we outspeed it since we're the same base speed of 80. Pelipper obviously gets bopped, and we take home the 6th gym badge.
Ooh, sky's so pretty.
We now have access to the Safari Zone where we could get Girafarig, but we end up catching Xatu and naming it Pisces. Thanks to you, I can see my girlfriend every day. Happy? You bet I am. TMI, bro. We next set our sights on Mount Pyre, where we can go ahead and pick up the TM for Shadow Ball and also the Metachamite. Speaking of which, our next encounter is Metatite, which we find here at Mount Pyre and named Sagittarius. We also have to go up against a bunch of Magma Grunts, and Virgo ends up evolving into Claydol. And we then have to visit the Magma Hideout, which is just a place full of weirdos. Like the laundry guy bases his work off a smell test. A smell test! Alright, let's see. The monitor shows pictures of Maxie with different expressions from different eras. Oh, goodness me. Anyway, we now get to Moss Deep City, where we can go to this guy's house and collect the Super Rod so we can finally go fishing and catch ourselves a Staryu. It's only a 5% encounter, so it took me a million years to get, but we catch it and name it Aquarius. I then fight the trainers in the Psychic Gym, and Sagittarius gets to level 37, so it evolves into Metacham. And this means it's time to face off against the Psychic Twins Tate and Liza, which really isn't gonna be that hard, and even in Emerald, they should have at least given them 3 Pokemon each. This gym is such a pushover. So the first turn, I just go ahead and double Shadow Ball Lunatone to take it out so that I don't have to eat a Hypnosis, and Solrock goes for a Rock Slide, which hits both of us, but I would have lived a crit on both, so the next turn, I can just go for double Shadow Balls again, and that's that. You know, Psychic types have pretty good move pools, but now we actually have access to the move Dive, so we can go ahead and go to Sea Mauville, where we can go ahead and do a super tedious fetch quest to get the TM for Ice Beam and a whole lot of nuggets. I mean, I've seen less nuggets in a McDonald's. Nugget Man would be proud. Another thing we can do now that we have Dive is go to this spot where we can pick up the Pinsirite, which doesn't matter, but we can also get a blue shard, which we can trade in with this guy for a Water Stone. This means we can finally evolve Staryu, so now we actually have a Water type on the team. And that's going to be really good for facing Team Magma, which is the next thing we have to do here with their ridiculous submarine. We find Maxie laughing, but he's not going to be laughing for too long when we show him the spring break pictures. In fact, he gets so mad about it that he challenges us to a battle, but it's futile, because he starts out with Mighty Enna, which we can totally one-shot with our Gardevoir. Actually, everything on Maxie's team gets totally annihilated by Gardevoir, except for Mega Camerupt, which gets taken out by a Surf from Aquarius. Maxie then decides that if we're going to show the public his spring break pictures, he's going to destroy the world using Groudon. Seems a bit like an overreaction to me. This is not... What? This isn't how I imagined it. I just wanted to have fun at spring break like everyone else. So you're saying every living thing on this planet, everything's gonna die because of spring break? Hello, mate. My name's Wallace. You're going to have to defeat Groudon to restore balance to Miami Beach. And so with Day County's future resting on my hands, I jump down into the volcano where I have to jump up on its back? Is that safe? Well, it's safe to say that Groudon didn't enjoy me jumping up on his back, and it reverted into its primal form, and now I have to fight it, which is pretty scary, but I had a great strategy going in. Since we can't use any water moves because of the sun, it's time to employ some Cancer. Which means that after we tank a really powerful Earthquake, we can just hit it with a counter, and that's that. And that's how I became Miss Miami, kids. Which means we can go back to this house after defeating Groudon and pick up the Gardevoirite. Okay, bro, I'll leave and let you two get to it. You don't have to give me the stink eye. Beating Groudon also lets us talk to Watson and do the new Mauville quest so that we can pick up the TM for Thunderbolt, which is going to be incredibly relevant since our next opponent is Wallace. Now, Wallace is really not that difficult an opponent, and this is going to be Sagittarius' time to shine. I I get rid of Love Disc with a Thunder Punch, and then my Loaded comes out and hits me hard with a Hydro Pump, but I hit it with a Power-Up Punch to boost my attack, and then take it out with a Thunder Punch. Next is his Whiscash, which gets me pretty low with an Earthquake, but I managed to use a few Power-Up Punches to take it out, and everything else that Wallace has is just weak to Thunder Punch, so that's the 8th badge. Now before we get to face the Elite Four, we have to face our rival and the poser Wally, who thinks he's a better Ralts trainer than I am. And since he has a Mega Evolution of his own, I decide to send out Gardevoir and immediately Mega Evolve it into Mega Gardevoir. Now here's the deal, this Altaria can't really touch me with much else than an Aerial Ace, so I go ahead and set up a Calm Mind and then go for a few more just for good measure. Wally's team goes down easily, but then he sends in Gallade, and in Gen 6, you didn't get the speed boost from your Mega Evolution the first turn, so I actually outspeed and just take him out. Sorry Wally, I'm the better Ralts trainer. Now here's my team going into the Elite Four, and you'll notice right away that I'm only level 52, which is the highest level of Sydney's Pokemon, so I'm gonna be way under-leveled for Steven, which I think could be really interesting, and pretty much the only battle I'm really afraid of. So after making all the relevant preparations, it's finally time to take on the Elite Four, and first off is Sydney and his Dark types. Sydney starts out with Mightyena, so I go into Gardevoir, who eats the Intimidate, which doesn't matter since I'm a special attacker, and I decide to Mega Evolve into Mega Gardevoir, which is pretty much the game over button for Sydney. I just click Moonblast and win against his whole team. Not so edgy now, are you, buddy? Yeah, even though we matched Sydney's level cap, he wasn't really a challenge, and next up is Phoebe, who we have a little bit of a different approach for. Phoebe uses Ghost types, and she starts out with a really annoying Dusclops, so I send in Gemini, who this time has a Person Berry, since Dusclops really likes to use Confuse Ray. This lets us set up a free Calm Mind, and from there, we can pretty much just start sweeping with Shadow Balls. Her Ghost types are really slow, and the only exception I make here is Moonblast against Sableye, but her Dusknoir actually manages to live a hit from Shadow Ball. She then retaliates with a critical hit Hex, which doesn't do that much damage to be fair, so I continue hitting her with Shadow Balls as she heals up, but eventually Dusknoir goes down. Yeah, it's so annoying when the AI keeps cheating by using healing items. Anyway, next up is Glacia, and our strategy for her is going to be using Mega Medicham. Glacia starts out with Glalie, and we Mega Evolve right away, and I made sure to pick up a bunch of Heart Scales so that I could teach Medicham all the elemental punches. The first turn, however, we go for a 4th move Power-Up Punch to get a bit of an attack boost as Glacia goes for Hail, but she ends up living in the red, which is actually perfect because now she heals and we can take it out with a 2nd Power-Up Punch. Now that we're at +2, Glacia sends in her Frost Lasses, and we can make easy work of them with Fire Punches. Then we got Big Boy Walrein, who has Sheer Cold, but Thunder Punch makes easy work of it too. Finally, all we have to do is Fire Punch another Glalie, and we've got the victory, and next we have to face the Dragon-type Elite Four trainer, Drake. Now, you might think that Drake is kind of a tough cookie because he's got really fast Pokemon, but actually, the highest base speed on his team is 100. So we're kind of in the same situation as we were against Wally here. This thing can't really touch us whatsoever, and we can freely set up a bunch of Calm Minds so that we can do the job later. So I go ahead and just set up 3 Calm Minds totally free against this thing, and after that, we can pretty much just wreck through all of Drake's team by just using Moonblast. Who would have thought that mooning dragons is actually the most effective way to take them down? Not even the big scary Salamence is a threat since it only has 100 base speed, and that's it for the Elite Four. But honestly, the Elite Four was just a warm-up, and so far, the stars have been totally aligned for us. However, this is the moment we've all been waiting for. Champion Steven and his Steel types that resist my Psychic types. So I conjured up a plan, and all I can hope for is that my horoscope predicts victory today, because there's no turning back. Champion Steven starts with his Skarmory, so I go ahead and send in Gardevoir, but not Mega this time. First turn, I go ahead and use Will-O-Wisp to have Skarmory's attack as he sets up a layer of spikes. I then go ahead and use Calm Mind as he uses Toxic on me, which means I'm on a ticking clock. The next turn, I go ahead and go for a Shadow Ball, which doesn't quite take out the Skarmory as he then hits me with a super effective Steel Wing, but the burn ends up taking him out, and out comes Aggron. I end up missing my Will-O-Wisp and go down to a super effective Iron Tail. Rest well, Gemini. Next up is Virgo, and I plan to set up a Cosmic Power here, but I accidentally click Calm Mind, but luckily he misses Iron Tail. I then actually click the right move, and he misses another Iron Tail. I go for my second Cosmic Power, and oh my goodness, how is he missing all these? But the next turn, I don't get so lucky, and he actually gets a crit. I then go ahead and set up another Cosmic Power, thinking that I'm totally safe, but of course he gets another crit, and Virgo goes down. Ugh. Guess I couldn't tank his whole team, so I have to break his Sturdy with an Ice Beam, and the next turn I can just go ahead and finish him off with a Surf. I'm very lucky that that Stone Edge missed, but I don't actually manage to take out Armaldo, and apparently one X-Scissor is enough to just clean take out Aquarius. But that's fine, because we still have Sagittarius, which we Mega Evolve as Steven goes for a full restore. The same turn, I get in a free power-up punch to boost my attack, and the second turn, I can get in another one to get to +2, but he goes for X-Scissor, and he gets a crit, which leaves me at 9 HP. Talk about a close call, but another couple power-up punches gives me a bunch of attack boosts, and it's enough to take out Armaldo. Ice Punch totally takes care of Claydol, and he then sends in Cradily, which at this point can't even take a power-up punch. This is it. If we can defeat Steven's Mega Metagross, we win the run, but he Mega Evolves it, and he does have Bullet Punch, and there's nothing I can do here except just sack my Metachamp. So it comes down to this. Is Cancer going to be able to survive the Giga Impact? Of course it can, and I can deliver back a counter just the way I did against Groudon and become the champion of Hoenn. I mean, that was a close call, guys. We lost 4 Pokemon against Steven, and Mega Metagross is no joke. But we managed to do it. We beat a Pokemon Omega Ruby Hardcore Nuzlocke using only Psychic types. And what did we learn today? Well, I'm still pretty good at the Hoenn games, and Mega Evolution is still really busted. So let me know if you think we should ban Mega Evolutions in future runs of Gen 6, and listen, if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, what are you doing? Just hit that red button, and you know what? You can even leave me a like. I have a really good time making these videos, and I have an awesome time playing through the Pokemon games all the time, so until we see each other next time, guys, have a good one.